That's very funny.
Me and the devil.
Hi, I'm in Salzburg at the Salzburg Festival, one of the biggest cultural events in the world. This is basically the Olympics of opera, drama, and classical music. This year's star of the Salzburg Festival is August Diehl, a German actor whom you might have seen like this, like this, like this, or even like this. August has played terrifying villains from Nazis to Satan himself, but also tender and sensitive types. I decided to ask August what it is to play monsters on screen and on stage on a very Russian matter. Shall we?
Yeah.
Okay, August. We laugh at many things, but
I know.
We don't very often laugh at ourselves and about Russian history as well. It is somehow a sacred matter. How is it in Germany? How self-ironic is German culture?
We are very much, because of our very dark history, we do a lot of jokes about this as well, because we're so fed up with this.
Do Germans laugh a lot about the Nazi period?
Yeah, I have to say, yeah. It's good to laugh about horrible things sometimes, like even when you're not supposed to laugh, probably. But yes, I think there are two people in the world who are doing the most Holocaust jokes. It's, of course, the Jews, they make the best ones,
Yeah.
and the Germans.
Yeah, here we meet, because I'm a Jew as well.
Yeah, and I love that they're telling jokes that we wouldn't even say. That this is really underneath the belt. The Jewish jokes about the Holocaust is very crazy.
There are like lands that you won't go that far in a Holocaust
Not
joke.
that easily.
Not with everyone, maybe.
No.
Okay, that's interesting. Do Germans laugh about their grandfathers who might have served in the Wehrmacht?
Yeah, that's also a funny thing. We don't have that attachment so much to the ancestors like Russia has. I don't even know what my grandfather or grandfather really did.
You don't know?
Not really. There are stories telling that he was against all this and stuff, but then you don't know. And there's also like we're trying to forget this as well. I think the whole past
Nowadays?
in our days, yeah.
Because it was too much after the 40s.
Oh, we got taught a lot in school, like about like the Germans were the most evil people in the world. Yeah, we grew up like this. I still think that we live in a world which is actually the result of all this. Even what is happening now in Gaza and everything is still a result and an echo from these times. It's unsolved, and it was not solved also with Israel and all this. This is something very complicated, and it's Germany who started the whole problem. I see it that way. But I don't believe in collective guilt, for instance. I think guilt is something very, very clear. It's the one who did it, he is guilty, not the generation after. And also the generation after, they are not victims. It's only the victim in this time. It goes the same for... And I have many, like, also Israeli friends now who I did even works with and movies with, and they're all saying this also. They have the same problem. They don't want to be victims anymore of the Holocaust. But as we see, history repeats itself and nothing is solved.
Sorokin often describes Russia as a place of nightmares. He wrote these words in the program. So how do you understand this place of nightmares?
Is he saying why?
That's his way of percepting an image of Russia, as well as his love and your love maybe to Russian literature, culture, music, and so on. That's pretty understandable. But also, it's a place where everything can happen to you.
I can imagine, like, we get nightmares as a single persons always when we didn't process the trauma, when we didn't get into this. Then we have nightmares. I have nightmares when I didn't process something. And maybe that goes also for people. Germany did process a lot about the whole crimes, but I think nightmares are always there when you didn't look at a thing which is a problem. And that goes very much for people as well. And I think in Russia, we have this situation a little bit, yeah.
But do you have this impression of Russia as a sometimes very dark place where everything can happen to a human being and he can be destroyed in so many ways, especially now?
I don't know. This goes for the whole world. I think that's everywhere like this. I can tell by the Russian literature and by things that I read that, for instance, in Dostoevsky novels and stuff, everything is very much felt. It's very much conscious about the feeling. Like a love is not only a love, it's huge. It's eating up everyone. If somebody is brutal, he's not only brutal, he's fucking cruel. Mm-hmm. When somebody is, like, everything is extreme, very extreme. And this is something that I feel also, which is very German. Like, this is the connection that we have. But Germans are more in their heads, and Russians are more in their souls. It is very much like I don't understand anything. I don't understand the world. This is very much Russian, while Germans are probably more saying also in their literature, I want to understand the world. I want to understand. This is also in the music and in literature and painting and everything, you can see that. But it's also the bridge between the two people for me.
And now the play August Diehl is performing here in Salzburg. It's called Der Schneesturm, The Blizzard, directed by Kirill Serebrennikov, based on a novel by Vladimir Sorokin. The action takes place in an absolutely bonkers Russian post-apocalyptic world, half borrowed from classics, with references to Chekhov, Tolstoy, Leskov and Pushkin, and half pure Sorokin's fever dreams, dwarves, giants, drugs and sex. August plays a Russian doctor named Platon Garin, who travels with his coachman Perhushka through a deadly snowstorm to reach a distant village and save the villagers from a mysterious epidemic that turns them into zombies. Yes, zombies. And it looks like that.
Now it's golden, they painted it. This is our Schneesturm, see? We can create here. Like, also it's a gun.
Yeah, and I saw from the photos that you have ushanka on your head. Do you know what ushanka is, this Russian hat?
Yeah,
with ears.
Yeah.
So it's called ushanka. It's like
ushanka, okay.
How do you feel about it?
It was at the beginning very hard to wear because it was very hot during the rehearsals.
Yeah.
But now it's better. I like to have something on my head. We have either the helmets or this. What is the name?
Ushanka.
Ushanka. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, August. The text of the Blizzard, of the Schneesturm, always seems to Russians to be understandable only for us. We talk that way about many pieces of literature that was written in Russian language. And there are really many hidden signs of Russian life and culture in it.
Yeah.
When you worked on this play and you read both the novel and the play, did you need to arm yourself with any footnotes, explanations, cultural decoders?
No. For me, it's like I'm surprised that Russians understand it. It's nice, but there is certain understanding also. Like you feel symbolic in it, and you take your own metaphors from it and what it means to you. For Garin, for instance, as a character, it's. I feel like the less I understand, the better I can play Garin in this.
Did you tell?
Because he's very much like, what is all this? He's very much in this state, like, what is this? Why are we always stopped by certain things that are actually not belonging to our world? It's very good to have this feeling of non-understanding it for me.
Did you tell this to Sorokin?
We talked, very, very shortly. No, I didn't, but I will tell him probably. We're gonna meet in Berlin, hopefully. It's an advantage for me to not really know every metaphor, every symbolic reason, because Garin doesn't. Garin doesn't understand.
But still, what was the strangest thing for you overall?
Well, when I was reading the novel of Sorokin first time, I didn't know anything about it. And I said, you enter like in a novel, you think it's in the 19th century in Russia, somewhere in the snow. And I remember that I was a little bit confused by the fact that there are like little tiny horseshoes, like small horseshoes. And I remember this and like, this is weird. Maybe it's also like, they printed it not right, because then somebody said, I saw that in the radio. I think I saw that in the radio. You don't see things in the radio. And I always thought like I was always a little bit confused. And then this thing with the pyramid, then indeed there's C radio at the Millerin in the novel with the hologram thing on the wall and their watch radio. So it became science fiction in a 19th century novel. And this mixture is something that makes fun.
Hi, it's me again. I'll be pausing this interview now and then to drop in little messages and notes to make this conversation easier to follow. August has just mentioned tiny horseshoes. Why? It's because Sorokin sets his blizzard in a post-apocalyptic Russia. So the characters Garin and Perhusha, whose bonnet hides tiny little horses who turn the drive shaft. Literal horsepower. Then, horseshoes. And the radio? In Sorokin's world, it's basically television. They call it radio, but it projects images on the wall. Mostly, it broadcasts patriotic news and church services. Was there anything that you needed to ask your partners? Like, are you sure that he means this or that? Or did I understand it right?
I think all of us, also the Russian actors, we are not interested in what it means. I talked with Philip a lot about this as well. Because everybody now asks us, the Meteorologie, der Schneesturm that means something, that means our blindness in the world probably, and we're always like, yeah, but it is just a Schneesturm.
I saw the merch for the show, the official merchandise, with Russian words that do not have any translation into German.
Yeah, the Russians always say that there is no translation in German, but there's always a word also in German. It's called Ottröp.
Yeah.
And of course, and it's translate like 3 lines of German what it means, and I look at it and I think, okay, so it's Schockstarre. So we have this word. But it's also funny because the Russian, they always say this, but also in our play, Perhusha is always saying, oh no, the Germans, they don't have a word for this. He's saying this several times about other things as well, even about coughing, and there's always a word.
Can you imagine a German word that does not exist in Russian?
I have to think about this. If there is a very typical German word, Angst.
Last time I was in Berlin, I was told the German word called Schwerbelastungskörper.
Oh, yeah, these kind of words.
Do you know what it is? Schwerbelastungskörper.
Schwerbelastungskörper. No, this is a physical thing, maybe.
It is a huge concrete column built by Albert Speer to test the ground for the future triumphal arch.
Schwerbelastungsstein, you see?
Did you ever find yourself laughing out while reading Der Schneesturm in the novel or the Kirill's play?
I was, when I read the novel from Sorokin, I was laughing a lot.
What made you laugh?
First thing, I think the Millerin scene, when the little dwarf is actually sitting on her like this, and she's very nice with her husband. I like that scene. And then it becomes more and more absurd. I mean, with the giant in the snow and all this, the wolves. Also the whole fact that he's going actually to a place to bring vaccine to zombies. This is also weird.
At the start of Sorokin's snowy saga, Garin ends up with beautiful Miller maid and her little husband, and then gets seduced by her. This Miller maid isn't random. Die schöne Müllerin is Franz Schubert's famous song cycle to the poems of Wilhelm Müller. A symbol of German romantic music and poetry, a true wondrous tale. In short, even Gary's adventures feel German. Who's Dr. Garin for you? What kind of person he is?
In our play, he's very much like representing the Western world, the West side of somebody who wants to go directly to a goal. He's very much like, davai, we go directly and the fastest possible. Actually, he doesn't want to have a story. And the story is actually something that stops him. The story is in his way a little bit. That's the beautiful thing. And sometimes I think about Ibsen's Peer Gynt. There are two figures, very small characters in this piece. They're called die Krumme und die Gerade, like the curved one and the straight one. And Garin is somebody who wants to go from A to B in the shortest way. But we're sitting on a mobile which goes in a circle. And it's somebody who becomes like, who's maybe very German, very European at the beginning of the play and becomes more and more Asian until he's actually in China in our play and can even speak Chinese. And is transformed to somebody who understands more or less that there is no direct way. There's always this. For me, this is the whole story of Garin. So,
how much truth is in this stereotype about Germans that you are this direct, sharp, precise?
It's not only German. I would say it's very Western hemispheric. I think it was always like this. I think even in ancient, antique Greek, there is this story about the Gordon nut. It's like in a hall in Asia, it's huge ropes, and they meet in the middle of the hall, and they're like in a nut. And this nut is unsolvable. They're a wise old Asian physicists and philosophers. They're sitting since centuries in front of this and trying to solve this. And then there's this story that Alexander the Great came into this hall, came from the West. He said, you have a problem to solve this? And he took his sword and he just cut the rope. And that's a very, very typical sign of like the Western world approaching problems.
It's peculiar that Garin does all these things in the opposite way.
Yeah, he's the sword at the beginning. He wants to go he cuts through the Schneesturm. And, but then he gets lost in this. And there is a German stereotype. I tried to do it very German at the beginning, like go, let's go. He doesn't want to have the theater evening. He's actually, I'm coming on stage and I feel like, let's go there. It's a question of 15 minutes. We're all out and we're having our beer. But it's a very, very fast thing. And then it becomes theater, another kind of theater. And the theater is something that Garin doesn't understand. So he doesn't even, aesthetic-wise, doesn't understand what's going on around him. There is a typical male vanity in it. I have in opposite to all you guys, I have a really serious job. That's very much his. Everybody else is not really important for him. But then he finds out that everything around him is much more important than him.
After he gets high, he starts loving everything, the Schneesturm, Perhushka, the rest of the world. Is this sincere, in your opinion?
It's a drug experience, like the same thing that we have when we take MDMA or something. And it lasts not long. When the burning bush is coming, I think then it's over.
Would you like to meet him in the real life?
I think we meet all the time Dr. Garins in our real life. He's not very unique. He's somebody, everybody who thinks that he has a very serious job and he's very, very needed. And everyone like this is a bit a Dr. Garin.
Do you Germans have any stereotype about yourselves, about Germans? Because we do, of course.
There are like this kind of sayings about us that we're punctual, neat, efficient, all this. But actually, I think we live in a world where all the stereotypes got wishy-washy a little bit now. Nothing works in our state. The trains are always late. We're not punctual. Sometimes I feel like we have more humor than other people around me.
Is there a stereotype about Russians in German culture?
Like we have this tradition that we say the Russian soul is very sensitive. It's people who are very, very much attached to the ground where they're from, like the Heimat is a big thing. But then now I meet many, many Russians. They don't even feel homesick at all. They're very fine to be here. I think the stereotypes are, this is a little bit also our Schneesturm. It's like a story about stereotypes who got, something different through the Schneesturm, who changes. Stereotypes who are disappearing, actually.
We Russians have countless proverbs about Germans. We say, what's good for Russian is death for German. You've probably heard.
Yeah.
The Russian winter drove the German mad.
Mm-hmm. That's also true.
The Russians gave the Germans the peppering, like we taught the Germans a lesson.
Mm-hmm.
Is there any proverb about Russians in the German language?
I think between Germans and Russians there are also a lot of similarities. We understand certain things, probably not in the complete same way, but we understand it. But I think also in general the Russians are thinking and talking much more about Europe and French and Germans than it goes the other way around. Sometimes we are saying also it's hard to switch in a conversation with a Russian from humor to serious and then to humor back and then to serious because it's too fast. It's either a serious conversation or it's a funny conversation, but it's marked from the beginning. I had this many times also in Moscow. I remember when it was a serious conversation, everybody was like this. And then you talk and then you make a little joke and everybody's like, is this a funny conversation or is it a serious conversation? So there is something in this.
A permission.
Yeah, permission. Or it's just funny, but then you don't say any serious things then.
Ever heard about the Russian novel called Oblomov?
Oblomov, of course.
Yeah,
the guy who just, it's one of my favorites. It's something that we all understand. We don't want to get up, we stay in bed, and we don't do anything. It's a little bit like a Hamlet thing as well. It's the one who doesn't act, who can't act, who is just being without acting. And
but do you remember that the opposition is just the same? Because Oblomov, the protagonist, is this Russian man who doesn't want to get up.
Yeah.
And his best friend is the polar opposite to him. It's Stolz.
He's always like,
German.
Yeah. It's true. You need something. It's always this, this couple is an ancient archetype. Also Perusha Garin. It's a bit the white clown and the stupid August, or the, one is like pushing, and the other one is being. And this is like Laurel and Hardy, and we have a lot of couples who are like this.
Would you tell me a little bit about your first approaches to Russian culture, what it was?
That was, of course, Dostoevsky when I was 18, 17, when I started reading these books. I can remember that I read a lot before already, like stories and novels and different things, but I can remember that there was a life before Dostoevsky and a life after Dostoevsky. After Dostoevsky, I didn't want to read anything anymore. Everything was boring. It took a long time that I started to read then different things. But I really fell into this world, in this moral struggle world of Dostoevsky and the inner fight of the characters in his novels, the extreme, and also he's in a way also the first horror and crime writer. Like there's criminologic stories with Raskolnikov, for instance, or it's very, very intriguing to read this. This was my first entering into Russia culture.
It's a very typical story about people who got wounded by Dostoevsky being 17 or 18.
I felt like wounded.
Yeah. And then it went on and on because you had an approach on Russian theater and Russian playwright.
And this is the second thing, is Chekhov, of course. I always thought like 3 big pillars that holds up the whole theater world. It's like the antique with the old pieces. And then it's Shakespeare, of course, we can't. Shakespeare's. And then it's Chekhov. It brings back the human on stage. And Shakespeare is very plot-orientated and very much action. While Chekhov, there's sitting people,
No action
boring,
at all.
and so human. You never had this before in theater literature like this. This is unique still.
And then came
Bulgakov, I never really understood. I read Master and Margarita when I was 18. Everybody was saying, this is a cult book, you have to read this, it's completely amazing. But as I said, I already read Dostoevsky and I found this boring and very much psychedelic and confusing. And I didn't get it at the beginning. And years later, when they offered me Master and Margarita, there was also a new translation by Nitzberg, and a very good German translation. And this was the first time I understood the book. But it took a while.
Why does August call the Master and Margarita a cult book? Because it's been one for ages, and not only in Russia. It was translated into English in 1967, and in 1968 the Rolling Stones released Sympathy for the Devil, flavored by Bulgakov, and then Franz Ferdinand released a track entirely dedicated to Margarita's wreckling of critic Latunsky's flat. And that's a tiny slice of the book's everywhereness in Europe. So for August Diehl, born in 1966, it was bound to land in his hands.
Do you find Russian literature way too serious or humorous as well as any other one?
It has humor, of course. Yeah, Bulgakov is full of humor. But it's a strange humor also. It's very symbolized humor. Russians on a table that can laugh about a thing that we don't understand. Like somebody says something, let's say he had a silver spoon in his hand and everybody at the table is like, haha, yeah, I know. And you don't know at all what that means because they get the symbolic of all the things. So I think the Russian humor is very coded.
It is. It
It
is
has
a
a
very
code.
good definition.
Yeah,
Could be the explanation of the coded humor we
I
have.
think so. It has to do with the censorship because it was not only during communistic times, it was even before with the Tsaristic. Every time, I think there was no time where a Russian could say whatever he wants to say.
I would like to ask you a bit about this performance with the text of émigrés.
I was lucky to be at a Salzburg Festival concert where baritone Georg Nigel sang Schubert and August Diehl read prose, and that was the point. What he was reading were the texts written by political émigrés from Germany of the Nazi era. Open letters to Goebbels, poems by Bertolt Brecht, pamphlets by Karl Kraus, fierce, poignant text. Every word tore the silence between songs, and I really wanted to talk about them, even briefly.
Were you acquainted with those texts before?
This was an evening that existed already before I did it. Somebody else did it. And Georg Nigel put the texts together.
What was the most touching for you?
There are a lot of different things. Stefan's Zweig, suicide letter from Brazil, is very touching. But also very interesting or touching in another way is also the text of Gottfried Benn against the immigrants. And
Writer Gottfried Benn was one of those who stayed. In May 1933, he recorded his address to political émigrés on Berlin radio. It didn't help much. His poems were branded homosexual, degenerate, and Jewish. Stefan Zweig, Jewish and Austrian, was utterly incompatible with Nazism. After 1933, he became a permanent fugitive, wandered as far as Brazil, and there, in despair, he took his own life in February 1942.
there are a lot of different things. For me, the most touching thing in this evening is actually the songs of Schubert. This is really, really crazy. And crazy, literally crazy. It is, Schubert has something completely, this is very German. It's like completely without any humor, but very dark and very much about death and home, Heimat.
Did you have talks about the same stuff with the exile, about the exile and the deprivation from home with the gang.
There are similarities. And now Kirill's building up his, more or less, what he did in Moscow with the Gogol Center. He's building this now in Berlin with Kirill and friends. And I have very much the feeling that we're doing something beyond theater, very, very good, because we're saving in a very, very dark time a German-Russian connection, which is going to be very, very useful after the war, that there are still people who did this. And this reminds me also about the time of the Third Reich, where also was like a French-German connection or English-German and little small groups who just saved this, and that this was very important after the war.
Do you have an impression that most of those writers, many of those writers who were abroad since 1933 or after, didn't get well after the end of the war back in Germany? Like Thomas Mann was not the most celebrated person in the late 40s.
Yeah, but he was also very... there was something... Also, he was very old already. But he behaved also in a certain way which was not really well received.
Why is August talking like that? Thomas Mann immigrated in 1933, and in 1936 he was stripped of German citizenship. Throughout the Nazi years he recorded his famous addresses to the German people on the radio. Already then he was speaking about the national responsibility of Nazism and war. The problem was audience. Those hypnotized by propaganda didn't listen, and those inside Germany who understood everything found it very hard to listen to lectures by political émigrés. And even if they agreed, what then? After the war, the rift between those who stayed and those who left even deepened. Mann wrote, "Understanding between those who watched the witches' Sabbath from outside and you who danced to their tune is difficult. Germany welcomed him coolly and he never moved back. And yet those quarrels nearly faded. Thomas Mann is now the most prominent German writer of the 20th century."
But for others, also a career started. I don't know, there is no real rule. But there is a fact that war and dictatorship, of course, is actually the biggest cultural killer that exists. The first thing you always feel like when there is a dictatorship or people are fleeing a country and go and immigrate, that the country itself becomes more and more stupid. And less and less intelligent people are there. That was the same thing with the Third Reich. The bookstores were empty. There was nothing anymore. There was just cheap literature, which is nobody knows anymore. Fortunately.
You've played evil incarnate more than once, like a Nazi officer, Dr. Mengele, even Satan.
Oh yeah, Woland.
August often plays bad guys. The Master and Margarita's Woland, the Satan, yes, but he did even worse. In at least 5 films, he wore the most unpleasant German uniform. And if you gather all the villains, Lenin included, you'll get close to 10.
So how do you understand evil?
Garin says evil is a human mistake. It's pretty well pointed. I think evil is nothing outside of us. I don't believe in the devil or something. I think the human species is what evil is. It's the dangerous animal in the world, but also the most beautiful. There is no evil animal. There is no evil plant, neither. But humans brought evil into the world, yeah, definitely. And there is evil, but evil is also something which is not so heroic. Like the most evil personalities, like, for instance, Josef Mengele. It's very banal, very not complex. The good is very complex. The evil is very... most these are people who don't have anything inside themselves to give the world. They have nothing to tell. They have only this.
Josef, du bist doch nicht zur Fahndung ausgeschrieben. Du hast im Krieg deinen Dienst abgeleistet.
The Disappearance of Josef Mengele is Kirill Serebrenikov's film about a horrific Auschwitz doctor who experimented on prisoners. After the war, he disappeared in Latin America. August Diehl plays Mengele himself, and the story is told from Mengele's point of view. The film is just about to be released.
How do you explain yourself your characters when you play them, when they are evil, like Woland?
I would never say as an actor that I am evil when I play an evil character. I don't think very, very little, small amount of people are looking themselves in the mirror in the morning saying, I'm an evil guy, I'm gonna do evil things today. I don't think so. I think they're saying, someone has to do it. That's very evil. That's my order. That's my goal. Like, I can do it because I'm strong. Others are too weak for this.
Is this something of the philosophy of Dr. Mengele?
Very much, yeah.
What does it give you as to an actor playing evil characters, which you met a lot?
The thing is, when I was very young, I always understood very early that a good story needs an antagonist, needs something dangerous in the story is necessary to make a story good. And it's often personalized by a character. So I was very much falling in love with the evil personalities in stories because I also knew they're gonna lose. I felt pity for them. In most of the fairy tales and things, it's always the evil one is losing at the end. And then you start, when you get more and more adult, then you find stories where it's not like this, where the evil wins at the end. And you're like, wow, this is also possible? Okay, it's very dark. But still now, I feel like even not only as an actor, but also like sitting in an audience and watching theater or a movie where the antagonist and the evil personality in this is something that is exciting because it is entertaining also in many, many stories. Then I enjoy it very, very much.
Can evil be funny?
Oh, yeah. It can be. It's always depending on the genre or the frame in how you tell the story.
Is there anything funny about Mengele?
No. Thing gets funny. It's not about the thing himself. It's about the point of view. You could, of course, tell a funny story, but it's a point of view. It's the one who tells the story who makes it funny. It's not the personality.
But did you laugh a lot during the shootings of?
Oh yeah, we did. With Kirill, we laughed a lot. We needed to.
Also about Nazi stuff and...
We needed to sometimes to free ourselves. And there are even, I would say, in this movie, there are not many, but there are some funny moments too. But it's, of course, not a funny movie, no.
It's not a comedy at all. You participated in a story where evil is also a character of another director, Quentin Tarantino.
Inglourious Basterds is Quentin Tarantino's film about a squad of Jewish Avengers during the World War II. August Diehl plays a notorious Major Hellstrom who exposes a British spy by the manner of showing three with fingers.
What's the difference between the perception of evil in Kirill's imagination and in Quentin's one?
Oh, this is the biggest gift in all this profession is to meet so different people and different approaches and different fantasies. Tarantino this is very much opera, what we did as well. Like it's very big and loud and very intelligent, beautiful dialogue writer, Quentin. But I could not compare. This is so beautiful because they're so different cosmos. Kirill approach, very intuitive. You're making big, huge plant sequences that we rehearsed for 3 days, and then we did it like 18 minutes plant sequences. And this is a total different way of shooting, and a very beautiful one, because after rehearsing a lot, you do like 3-4 takes, and then it's 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and the shooting day is done. But you go home like this, like after a theater show, because it is so complicated and so challenging.
Tarantino's touch on the evil, the Nazi stuff and fascism and stuff like that is hilarious. I mean, he has this talent into making it not only profound, deep, very humane, but also funny.
Yeah.
Was it as fun at the shooting as it is being a viewer? Oh,
the shooting was funnier with Mengele. But he's very demanding also, Quentin, and very strict with the dialogue and stuff. But also we laughed a lot. And I remember that I had this discussion often, like at the beginning with Quentin, that I said, is it more realistic to do it like this? Or is it more realistic to do it like this? And he was always thinking. After 3 days, he said to me, you know what, I'm not caring so much about if something is realistic. And I asked him, so what do you care about? And he said, the only question is it entertaining? And that's a big difference. From then on, I knew how to play this character.
After making such big projects as Mengele, do you feel that you need some time not to take any parts and roles with this amount of meaning?
Well, yes, I have this since a long time already, that I don't want to do too many things in this direction. But, you know, then somebody like Kirill approached you, and it's a wonderful artist to me. We have a very good connection, so why shouldn't I do it? And it's always something also when a script is very, very well written, which is rare. I think I would never, ever play Hitler in my whole life.
Hitler?
No, it's boring to play. It's like as boring like playing Jesus, I think.
That's very funny. Indeed.
It's like the both figures, I don't have fantasies for them.
But Hitler, I mean, aren't you interested in...
No, it's a black hole. People around him is interesting, probably. But he's the black hole in the middle. It's like nobody wants to play him.
But if you say that the key to Mengele is banality, am I getting it right? The banality of people?
That's from the perspective way. Probably for me as an actor, it's like always, but for every character, it is very important to understand the character. And this was the biggest challenge with Mengele, because everything in me said, I don't want to understand this guy. And but I had to, because you can't play someone if you don't try to understand him.
But there should be a way to... Salzburg, helicopters. What?
You know, in the 80s, we were still saying when we heard this, the Russians are coming.
Die Russen kommen.
Then it went down, and then in the 90s, 2000s, nobody said this anymore. This was Asian stuff. But now we say
Welcome
it again.
back. If you became curious in trying to understand Mengele, why are you not curious to understand Hitler?
I don't know. I don't think even a writer is a bit like, what should I write about this? The center of it all. The eye of the storm. There is just a huge emptiness. There's like no fantasy or something that goes in a certain direction. It's just sucking some energy away. It's
a black hole, emptiness, and so on. But do you understand how it worked out?
Some people are saying if there wouldn't have been Hitler, the world would be completely different. But I always thought if there wouldn't be Hitler, then there would have been exactly another guy, maybe a different name and a different face, and he would have done the same. It's just a vault, something that was in this moment. People needed. It's the people who created Hitler. It's not Hitler who created the whole thing. It's the same now with Trump, and it's the same.
And someone else.
And Putin, you mean? No, Putin is a different thing. It's really someone, I think he's really doing what he wants to do. But I think, like, let's go back to Hitler. I think in this case, Germany was in a state where they needed somebody who increases their fear and their Mordlust and their need for revenge. And there would have been another guy, I think. The world was yelling for somebody like this, and therefore he came. That's the boring thing about him, I think. Same with Jesus, as I said.
This is the first video in a series of interviews with world celebrities about how they got impacted by Russian culture. Please subscribe on this channel and see you again.